Here we are with 0xMaki. So excited to have you on the Defiant podcast.
Nice to have me.
um, 0xMaki is a sushi chef. He is an anonymous DeFi developer contributing to obviously SushiSwap and also the Yearn Finance protocol. He is at the center of two of the most important ecosystems in decentralized finance. So I'm really excited to get your thoughts and latest news. But I would, as always, would love to just get to know you a little bit better. I know you're an anonymous, so that will be a little bit tough. But if you can just provide as much as background as you can on yourself. Like, what were you up to before crypto? What got you into crypto? You can keep things general, so nobody can dox you. But we just get to know 0xMaki a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I've been involved in crypto since 2013. Since then, I kind of lost touch with crypto until I discovered Ethereum, and then in 2017 saw the whole kind of ICO mania. Didn't participate or partake into it too much. In 2018, when the bear market came, started to see some very interesting project growing. 2019, we have like the whole DeFi kind of protocols coming up to life, and 2020 where it's kind of the pinnacle with DeFi summer. So that's kind of where I took action and started to get involved more, I guess, closely with the community, where I could basically I saw this project SushiSwap that was open to contributor, and I just jumped in and started to get everything moving, making sure that this was not left for dead, basically, because I think a very community-oriented project was important with very good values similar to Yearn, inspired by Yearn, actually. And then here we are today, one of the top AMM. So that's kind of my background.
Cool. And just like briefly, I mean, were you a developer? Like, did you have like technical experience before going into DeFi, or were you more kind of like a finance kind of person?
I was involved in Web2 mostly.
Oh, got it. Cool. So when you got into SushiSwap, that was, I think, one of the like just biggest dramas in DeFi's short history. The whole, forking of Uniswap, Chef Nomi, for those who are listening, SushiSwap is a fork of Uniswap. Right now, the biggest automated market maker or decentralized exchange in the space. And SushiSwap forked or copied the code and added a few things, including a token, which Uniswap didn't have before. And this rallied a lot of support and also a lot of money. And then when Sushi was kind of at the peak of its post-fork success, Chef Nomi, which, he was one of the people who started this project. He ran off with the funds with 14 million worth of ETH at the time, but then returned all of the funds again. So this was just it. I mean, it was like a soap opera. I remember covering it. It was incredible. The story, completely crazy. So I would just, love to. I have the opportunity to kind of hear that the side of the story from you. I know it happened kind of. It's like ancient history, 6 months ago or whatever. However many months ago for DeFi. But still, it's still to me like one of the most riveting stories in DeFi. So we don't have to kind of talk about this too much, but would just love to hear from you how that was like, especially kind of the moment when you saw that Chef Nomi had run off with the funds.
Yeah, it was unexpected, but I think everything has been sort of mitigated, and we kind of grew stronger from all of this. This is kind of past history, and to be honest, it wouldn't be fair to just think about Sushi with just the, I guess, initial story. It's way more than a fork today. We're more than 14 people full time. We have like a very broad uh, suite of projects that are emerging. Just 2 weeks ago, we had Kashi finally launching on mainnet, which is very exciting to me. And then we have Miso coming up probably end of this month, if not in May.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, back then, I guess it was the most crazy story we saw in DeFi, I guess, for the year.
Yeah.
But since then, we kind of evolved stronger than just a fork. And I think that, with even our new AMM coming very soon, we're going to prove ourselves that this is more than just basically a fork. And, the market is pricing us like it too.
Mm-hmm. These are definitely points that I want to talk about. So this idea of that you are more than just a fork. I'd love to hear kind of the breakdown of this. So the obvious thing when the fork first happened was the token. Now Uniswap has its own token, but what are the main differences with Uniswap? Like, what would you say are SushiSwap's biggest innovations right now?
If we're talking just about the token, Sushi has the fee switch activated, which is basically like accruing value to X Sushi holders. Aside from that, right now we're seeing innovation on the front of Kashi, where we're talking about isolated market making, money market, sorry, for basically like any single ERC money. We're fixing the oracles at the moment, so we can enable it on any single market that is on Sushi, because this is kind of the very key aspect, I would say, in making sure that it is safe and secure, which is not very easy to do because you need like very efficient, very accurate price data. So we're working on this. We did start with Chainlink markets to make sure that we had like a very accurate price oracle, and then we're going to be expanding this as soon as possible. What is very interesting is at the moment people can create their own pair, but this will become trustless very soon. We're thinking by end of the month. We're gonna basically like the thing is we were thinking about launching, I guess later, but we decided to launch earlier with rolling basis update. So right now we have a limited amount of markets. I think it's 10, if I'm not wrong, enabling you to long or short with leverage various. So that is one of the innovation. We have Miso that is being worked on by another team inside of Sushi, which is basically like the perfect launchpad for every single digital asset, whether it is an NFT, whether it is a tokenized object, whether it is a ERC20. This is the perfect place to conduct, I would say, like a pre-sale or something similar. So a sale like the Ash Mask that went quite viral in the ecosystem could be enabled by Miso with like a trench style of auction. So this is the sort of innovation we're working on. Ethereum swap coming that is being worked on by one of our core dev Levex, and pretty much at the moment that is what is in the immediate pipeline. So if we're talking about what is coming on for Q3, we've been seeing like a lot of traction in the NFT segment. Took some interest by our community. There has been like a proposal to start working on an exchange for NFTs called Nato or Shoyu. It's still like the ideation process, but this is what is interesting: is the innovation doesn't come necessarily from the very top of the team. It comes from the community. They are asking or voting on what they want to see happening, and then we execute following their lead, basically.
It's interesting what you were saying about all the different kind of innovation that's going on in the SushiSwap ecosystem, and how that innovation is happening is also interesting because I think we're seeing kind of different models of managing protocols arise. One is a more kind of traditional model of a centralized company building a decentralized protocol. That's kind of more the Uniswap model, compound model. But then there are other like more community led models of building protocols. And I think Sushi is an example, Yearn is another example, where all these proposals and changes are coming from the community instead of from a centralized structure, a CEO. So that's I obviously that has its pros and cons. I wonder how you're experiencing this type of work. Like, does it get to a point where it's just hard to get things approved? Like too many voices, maybe. Is it hard to get like maybe quality code shipped if there's like just too many chefs in the kitchen? I guess is a good analogy. It might get it hard to actually cook something or make a sushi roll. What do you think about the different like the two approaches?
I think what is very interesting and what we see kind of forming up with inside of Sushi is we have like distinctive team actually working on different products. So you can see miso is being built by a very different team than the team building kashi. Ultimately, all of them are adhering or leveraging our own solidity guidelines that we've created in house to make sure that everyone is on the same page. We're also using the same stack for the front end and so on to make sure that everyone is able to switch seamlessly between each other project. And then, so all of these kind of SWAT team, if you want to call them, are all dependent on, I guess, a central quote unquote design department or PM is kind of, making sure that all of the gears are well oiled up. So, there's no kind of blockers or anything like this. So ultimately, we're just seeing a very different type of coordination happening. And I'm actually very surprised to, I've seen someone working on solving this, and it's called Coordinate. It's the first product I see that is kind of adapted to this new reality of you don't know who you're going to be working with in maybe 3 weeks or 4 weeks potentially, because some people are just want to get involved but don't want to come in full time. So they're literally just coming in, being quote unquote contractor for 2-3 weeks, and Coordinate is solving all of this. So it's very fascinating to see people finding solution to problems that were not a thing back then, or I would say in a normal work environment. So, but it can get very messy to kind of regroup all of these Telegram channels, Discord groups, and so on and so on. Ultimately, it's part of the, I would say, model that DAOs have at the moment. And once we have like a full, I would say, perfect blueprint, every DAO is going to be using it. But at the moment, it's still in the experiment phase, or everyone is figuring out what they can do, how they can do the best way, and so on. So it's less efficient, I would say, but we're getting there. We're getting shit done. So ultimately, it's the same result.
I mean, it's definitely fascinating to see these new business models or just working models emerge from this decentralized ecosystem. And like maybe being an employee, a full-time employee for a company is something of the past, or something that's simply like not really part of this new era, like new kind of finance. But instead, you are a contributor, not an employee, and a contributor to many different projects, not a single project. I mean, the way that payroll is run is different. The way that teams organize is different. It's just really interesting to see this kind of play out real time and how teams are organizing accordingly. But if it's not more efficient, why do it? Like, what's the main reason for working in this way, in this kind of DAO system?
I know absolutely no one in my city that has blockchain experience. So I think that you're limiting yourself if you are um, trying to hire locally. You can hire quote unquote remotely, but for these type of project, just setting up a legal structure is quite the hurdle. It's very difficult. I don't see why we would be building the future of finance then for companies. I think those are the futures too. And ultimately, like I said earlier, we're still figuring out all of the details. And, we have like, everyone is sort of not being happy with the current context of Snapshot and so on. But the Gnosis team has been working very hard in making sure that Snapshot actually become a very neurologic way of managing DAOs where, you don't need, like it is quote unquote as effective as on-chain voting with a compound governance contract or the Aave one. So I think we're going to get there. And I do think this is the best way to work to gather to people who are passionate about getting involved in the space. There's way less barrier. We don't care if the person is from India. We don't care if the person is from Europe, South America, etc. Everyone can be contributing, and there is no problem with getting the person is pay or else via bank. So that's why we're doing it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And last question on this topic, but why be anonymous? I mean, there's obviously kind of like the regulatory side to it, but yeah, is it just that, just reducing risk, or just something else?
It's more simple.
More simple for what?
For everything. For everything.
Okay, I guess you don't want to talk about why you decided to be anonymous. All right. So on the other kind of innovations that you mentioned, the token and fees accruing to the token, Kashi. Would love to dive into Kashi. Like, can you explain what this is?
Yeah, sure. Sorry about this. The audio was just lagged a little bit.
Sorry?
The audio just dropped for a second. I didn't hear the question. Sorry.
Okay. No, it's just I was saying, you were mentioning the different innovations that Sushi has done with the token and fees accruing to the token, Kashi, ideas around NFTs. So wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about Kashi, because I'm sure as many of my listeners aren't following or aren't exactly sure what it is or how it works. So can you dive into that a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah. So if you
Kashi is the first product built on top of Bento Box, which basically act as a new infrastructure layer for every kind of new product Sushi is going to be building moving forward. What is very interesting with it is this is very gas efficient. For example, doing a transfer on Kashi is almost gasless. It's very low. How we can kind of leverage this is that all of the assets are sitting inside of Bento Box contract. So Cashi is built on top to enable margin trading, where you can basically like supply asset and you can borrow asset. What is very different than I would say something like Cream Finance, which is also part of the Yearn ecosystem, is that we're optimizing for an interest rate of 80%, meaning that this is for a very short-term speculative purpose. It is not meant to basically like leave your asset in there for, I would say, a very long period of time or optimizing for TVL. Like it's not the more TVL in that matters. It's more about which assets and the assets are in demand are used to long or short them. So that is so someone that wants to take a position against, I don't know, a very new shiny ERC20 can do so by creating a market on Cashi and supplying a very tiny amount of assets and basically like making the API very high so people are incentivized to supply in there. So that is, I guess, the idea behind Cashi.
Okay, so enabling margin trading on ERC20 tokens in a way that lets users take long and short positions on these tokens, and it's optimized for like short-term trading, basically, right?
Exactly. What is very important is there's isolated lending pairs. So anyone can create like a pair, like I just said. It's up to the user to choose which one is safe to supply. And also all of the risk, the LTV is up to the creator of the pair. So you can have like very aggressive lending pairs where it would be unreasonable to have the same on, let's say, compound because there's a high risk of liquidation. In Cashi, some pairs can fail and it won't affect the overall system, the overall health. We also have like, flexible Oracle. So they're both on-chain and off-chain. At the moment, we only have the Chainlink Oracle enabled, which basically contribute to the liquid interest rates that I was talking earlier, which target 70 to 80%. And all of the supply asset can be used for flash loans and to provide extra revenues to supplier, basically. And also be voted to be supplied somewhere else, ultimately, like a percentage. So for example, all the sushi deposited in Cashi or the bento box can use a strategy to be staked in X Sushi. So they can earn a portion of the sushi deposited in X Sushi. So that's kind of the idea behind, I guess, bento box and Cashi.
Oh my God, it sounds super complicated. Like how are you able to make sure that the tokens that you're depositing on Cashi and bento box, you're like using them twice?
So these are voted on by the community, and this is only a conservative LTV. So only 20%, for example, of the sushi on bento can be lent out. It's very similar to the balancer V2 model.
Okay.
Where some assets can be lent on Aave while they're not being quote unquote actively used.
Right. What's the risk here? Like I meant, like, what happens if those assets are suddenly like, if there's like some like huge price swing or like tons of market volatility, and suddenly Sushi needs those assets that are being lent out somewhere else?
So this could only happen if people wanted to withdraw all at the same time, right?
Right.
And that's why there's only a 20% LTV. So only 20% of all of the assets could potentially be lent out outside. And they can be retrieved at any moment, right? So in theory, like this is not a problem because they're just and they're like in very safe, strategies. So for example, for Sushi, it's stake. For Yearn, it would be stake in the governance contract, and so on and so on. Like we won't be seeing sort of Yearn strategies being involved, because that could be risky. So it's very conservative. It's there, but it's not like something that would cause any kind of risk to the system in itself.
Okay. And then what about Miso? You mentioned it's that it will be launched pretty soon. You said end of the month. What's this about?
Miso is actually complete at the moment code-wise. We're waiting for the security audits. We did a Q1 update very recently on Medium that I would recommend everyone to kind of read about, where we put Certora on a retainer of 3 months. So they will be auditing pretty much every single new contract that we're putting out, whether it is MasterChef V2, limit orders, in this case, Miso. It is basically a launchpad for any single ERC20.
Okay.
And people can create their own kind of pre-sale leveraging the various models. So let's say you want to be launching a new asset or new project using like a Dutch auction. You can do it on Miso. You can also go for a very regular model similar to what just happened with the Genesis event of Fake Protocol. So where an amount of ETH gives you a similar amount of token, and then you can do pre-swaps with it, or you can just keep it as is. So that is what kind of Miso enable. Potentially, can be used for NFTs too. For example, you can see trench type of sales where, the first, I don't know, 100 contributors or investors are incentivized in a different way than, I guess, the last 50. So this is all kind of possible with Miso. And what is very interesting is it is built in a very open way. So people can create their own recipes. We call them recipe internally. So a dark session is a recipe and so on and so on. And what is powerful is that you can also opt in for a liquidity mining program right in the Miso interface. You can opt in, for example, a percentage of the token being vested by the team, and so on and so on. We make it very easy, basically, to launch these new assets.
Oh, cool. So it's kind of like a drag and drop token issuance system.
I'm not familiar with drag and drop, but
just like out of the box thing, like not you don't need to do so much work. It's like you put the pieces together and then you're done.
Exactly.
Cool. So I was looking at the SushiSwap metrics versus Uniswap, and was seeing that Uniswap is doing about 3 times the volume that SushiSwap is. It has 2 times the liquidity. It's collecting 3 times the fees. But looking at the Sushi market cap versus Uniswap, the difference is huge. So Sushi is at 2 billion about market cap, and Uni is at around 16 billion. So while on the other metrics, Uni beats Sushi by like 2x or 3x. By market cap, Uni beats Sushi by around 8 times. So wondering why do you think the market is pricing SushiSwap this way? Like, what are investors missing?
I don't really focus on all of the price actions or else. I focus mostly on volume TVL metrics. So I couldn't answer why the price is behaving this way. Perhaps it's the fact that we are disputing tokens very heavily to the community. We want to make sure that everyone can have a say in the project. So we're highly incentivizing various communities and so on. Maybe it's because the price is closer to its real value. I personally have no clue and not interested in all this speculation talk.
All right, makes sense. So right now, obviously one of the main problems for using DeFi is the high Ethereum gas cost. A lot of projects in the space are migrating to or thinking of migrating to layer 2. Others are building on other layer 1s. What are SushiSwap plans on this?
Right now, we deployed on every single one sidechain or EVM compatible blockchain. So basically, we are waiting to see where the community is going to be moving to. We are seeing a lot of movement to Polygon at the moment. We're very interested in various ecosystem. We're waiting for Polkadot to launch. There is a proposal that was posted very recently that passed about Sushi joining force with Radium and Sora to basically enable SushiSwap there. We are about to finalize, I guess, talk and working with the team to see how we can leverage each other kind of knowledge and communities. But ultimately, we're not going to be the ones saying where we're going. We're not going to be conducting any purity tests. If people wants to go on Binance Smart Chain, so be it. We're going to be there for them. But if they want to leverage something else, we'd be happy to be there too. So that's how we kind of approach the whole scalability problem. I think the most innovative solution or exciting ones like Optimism, Arbitrum, and ZK Sync are not out yet. And once they are, we're going to see actual liquidity moving to layer 2. Right now, everyone is still on layer 1, even if there's alternative. I think it's mostly a security problem with XDAI, with Polygon and so on. That's why people don't want to move there, I guess, quote unquote. Maybe they've not been incentivized enough. Who knows? I cannot speak for everyone, but the majority of project composability and everything is still on layer 1. So
right. So to you, it seems like SushiSwap will go wherever the community says. But you're kind of deploying to as many layer 2s and layer 1s as possible to kind of be ready for whenever that happens.
Exactly. I mean, we're starting to see it happen a little bit on Polygon because of Aave moving there. Not moving, but actually, opening up. We're already on Polygon. I think we've been there since early March, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it's just we're not providing any incentives at the moment, mostly because, like I said, all the action is still on Ethereum mainnet, so on layer 1. But once we see traction there, we will potentially start to maybe a proposal for incentivizing various layers, or perhaps moving some of the I would say nephrologic things, or new apps will be only on layer 2. I have no clue what it's going to take to bring everyone over there, because that's what everyone wants, but nobody seems to be making any moves. So we'll see. I mean, I don't have the answer, and if I had it, I would be working on it.
And you were saying you think that is because some of the most viable or interesting solutions aren't totally ready yet, like Optimism, CK Sync, like those are not 100% ready for kind of just prime time, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, security is, I think, the most important aspect of all these layer 2 or sidechain, since it's not 100% safe at the moment. I think that's why we're seeing some people not willing to move more actively. So yeah.
And interesting to hear your take on cross-chain. Like it seems like you're not like other Ethereum projects so tied to the idea of staying 100% on Ethereum, and even opening up to something like Binance Smart Chain, which some projects would like definitely not consider. And I guess interested in kind of your broader view here. Like, do you see a cross-chain DeFi winning out in the end, like a multi-chain future?
I have absolutely no clue on this. I'm not closing the door to anything. Personally, I find it kind of. I hope we are not moving towards a future where Binance Smart Chain is the dominant player. That would be very ridiculous. But I do think if there is if Ethereum can scale natively, ZK Sync and other solutions, Arbitrum, I think we're gonna the raison d'être of all these other kind of layer one is probably gonna die from it, unless they have like a very competitive aspect or very key builders in their ecosystem, which I'm starting to see on Polkadot. I see like some very interesting individual building there exclusively with a very good philosophy. On Solana, I mean, we're starting to see one or two projects being gaining traction. So everyone kind of heard about the Cope airdrop. People are starting to pay attention to other projects that could potentially not be happening on Ethereum. Mainly everything related to, I guess, high frequency trading and so on. But aside from that, I think it's going to be perhaps a multi-chain future, but very niche. I think where everything is happening on Ethereum and more like specific application like NFTs or else are on Flow, for example, or I don't know. Personally, I'm not a huge fan, but I can see it happen and I can see that happen and I'm not against it. Ultimately, as long as we have like a new financial rails for finance or else I'm going to be happy. And it is decentralized and censorship resistant. That's all that matters.
Yeah, no, I agree. And maybe you can dive into that a little bit. Why is this new financial system winning or developing further important to you? Like why have this more open and permissionless system? Like does it come from some kind of just your own experience with traditional finance? Like what is kind of motivating you to be building in this space?
Interacting with the traditional finance is awful, I think, and we are self-sovereign individual fighting for this. So that's pretty much it. I don't think I need to go at length to see why it is so important. Sending a transfer should be very easy between two individuals in this world, and there shouldn't be any intermediaries trying to block us in any single way.
Totally. Cool. I wanted to also talk about Uniswap v3. The big kind of innovation here was concentrated liquidity. What were your thoughts there? Do you think this is a good step forward for AMMs? And do you foresee implementing any of these ideas to SushiSwap?
I think it's very cool. I mean, the Uniswap team have always been kind of innovating in this space, and they've been here for quite some time. Uniswap v3 is very interesting. The problem is right now we cannot see it behave in action, right? So we don't know exactly how it's going to be looking like. I think in 1 month or 2 months, when we have like way more people using it, leveraging it, see how the LP behave, and so on, is going to be very eye-opening. In the meantime, I don't think it makes much sense to comment on something that is not quote unquote available to play with. But the capital efficiency that they've been, I guess, working on is very nice. I don't the NFT part for LP token is something that I found strange at first. Then the more you kind of digging in the, I guess, in the code and all the ways developers can leverage it, it's interesting. They thought about a lot of things for sure, and that's why it took so long. Ultimately, it's all going to be about how long tails assets are going to be behaving with all of this. LPs, are we going to see like more quote unquote sophisticated actors preying on lazy actors, and so on. Who knows? I think it's too early to comment on it. And I think it's going to be interesting with a Uniswap v3 with a layer 2 on top is going to be interesting. But I don't think it's the quote unquote holy grail of AMM. I think it is a good step in the right direction. For Sushi, we're going to be leveraging some sort of capital efficiency too, but we're not going to be forking any of the code.
Well, and right now, Uniswap made it almost, I guess, illegal to fork the code with its kind of new copyright. What did you think about this? I mean, having like forked the original code of Uniswap, the fact that Uniswap is now introducing this kind of blocker for future forks of the protocol.
It doesn't matter, I think. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Because you weren't thinking of forking V3 anyways.
Nope.
Right. So can you tell us more about this capital efficiency that you're planning on for SushiSwap?
Our core dev LevX is going to be posting about this very soon. So I'll let him to do the whole kind of technical legwork.
Okay, we'll have to wait then. You also mentioned work with NFTs on SushiSwap and integrating NFTs somehow. Anything else you can any details you can drop on that?
Show you or NATO or whatever it's going to be called. I have no clue at the moment what the community decided on or finalized on. Is mostly going to be aimed at making, I guess, NFT easier to quote unquote trade after they've been auctioned on potentially Miso. The thing is, there's like very different type of NFTs, right? There's like the generational one where there's like multiple thousands of units. There's the one-of-ones. Now we're seeing people actually working on fractionalizing the one-of-one. Fractional art is one of the fractional.art is one of these projects. We're seeing, project doing index of NFTs. I think that at this point, there's enough kind of action and traction in the space to be an actor. And, the proposal has been put up, I think, 1 or 2 weeks ago. It's too early, I think, to even talk about it in a serious way until we have like some code written. Like we have code for Miso, we have code for limit orders, master shell V2, Uniswap. But for NATO or show you, it's still just an idea, I guess.
Okay.
So.
No, very cool to see so much innovation, even on NFTs, which just recently kind of blew up. But I'm really interested to see how they will fit into just like purely DeFi protocols, just mixing NFTs with DeFi, and how to make these things kind of interact with just money Legos. Will be cool.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be so relevant, even if the art part, like you said, just blew up. Personally, I've not been following the whole kind of market or else. So I'm not synced on this, but ultimately, like the LP position of Uniswap are going to be NFTs,
right?
And we're probably going to be using more and more of them. So for actual, in DeFi or in financial purpose. So we're positioning ourselves to make sure we are there.
So interesting how kind of in this new Web3 world, everything starts to become money. Like the lines between what's finance, what isn't finance starts to become blurry when you're interacting with blockchains, which have really value at their core.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And I think what was very nice about the NFT part though. A lot of digital artists that were not necessarily involved in crypto got to know about what is MetaMask, how to mint a token, an NFT token, etc., etc. And I think people are overlooking this aspect. I think a lot of people have a bad stigma of crypto and I guess the normie world, or the very people just think Bitcoin, I missed the boat, or number go up and so on, or bubble. NFT, that was the first time they heard about this concept, and I think that was very novel, and that's why people get excited again about this
Yeah.
whole kind of universe. And then they come in with I believe like a fresh mind, and they see, oh, now we have DeFi. What is DeFi? Oh, that's not Bitcoin. That's not as boring. Oh, this is actually a way that I can earn yield on my US dollar. Oh, I can take your loan against my own. You see, that's like what I think was the most interesting about part of the NFT craze. Not just this, obviously, but fascinating.
No, I agree. It was awesome to see people who were never interested in crypto before take a second look and participate with the space. It's like we got a whole new wave of creators and artists getting interested in crypto, where before it was mostly like speculators, traders, people, like sound money, kind of digital gold kind of people. So we're getting a whole new wave of newcomers into the space, all because of NFTs. So it's pretty cool to see. And that makes me think of, Sushi is very much, it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems very much targeted to kind of the DeFi degen. Like all its offerings are very much kind of, highly kind of speculative, or at least kind of require some level of risk or technical knowledge, or at least financial knowledge. Is it on your roadmap to start kind of targeting a more widespread audience, like a more newbie audience who maybe doesn't want to take the huge risk of yield farming, and wants to take kind of like safer bets into DeFi, or are you just like the more kind of degen is your audience, and you're kind of going to stay loyal with them?
I don't see how we couldn't be able to cater to both. I think we need like various interface for I think an interface for people that are like beginners, and more another one for more pro people. I think right now Uniswap has 50,000, 90,000 users monthly or something, actively kind of using the dApp. Sushi has 2,000 or 3,000. We're making twice, 2 times less volume, I think, 2 times less volume or something like this. You said metric wise. The way we think about this is we're going to be making sure that, I guess, hosted or custodial wallet have it easy for these users to use SushiSwap in the future. So integration with things like Taurus, I think that's the right name. I'm not 100% sure of it. So making sure that for them it is as if you were signing up for an account for any single kind of Web2 website. We want to kind of democratize. Yeah, we want to make sure that we democratize this whole kind of MetaMask blockchain. Like, I don't know how to tweak this and that. Why my trade is not going in? Why do I need to purchase? Can I purchase with credit card? No, I cannot. See, it's still very complicated. People like people that I meet for the first time and are not into crypto, you have no choice but to send them to centralized exchange at the moment. There's absolutely no way a DEX can compete with a centralized exchange at the moment. Is this ever going to change? I think so. But we're still like a long way forward. It's going to be a long way, I think, a few years at least. mostly because we're trying to build new financial rails while they are still in the old system.
Right.
And there's like a very complex regulation aspect here that I don't want to dabble into, because each time I talk about compliance, my brain is losing cells and so on. So
Yeah.
I'd rather not. But anyway, right now I think we have enough traction and we have enough project coming up to keep kind of gathering to this degen audience. And they are actually very savvy users. They're power users, in my opinion. They are the one who understand all of this the most. Very valuable individual and community members, in my opinion. And ultimately, they're going to be helping us shape this, I guess, onboarding for normies in the future. We are conducting, user research for many of our new UIs that are being developed. And the truth is, UX in DeFi is really difficult to get right, in my opinion. In a way where people that are not savvy with Ethereum or MetaMask and so on, just Wallet Connect is a very good kind of UX for these newcomers. But even then, making them store their money on their cell phone and so on, it's not obvious for everyone. So we're gonna get there, I think, but it's gonna take some time.
Yeah. No, totally right. So, and I think you're doing what most of DeFi is doing right now, which is focusing on kind of the DeFi native, the degen, the trader who can better assess the risk, who has just more experience in the space, who already has some capital to risk in DeFi. And they will, I think, pave the way for the more mainstream user once the whole system is stronger. But interesting to see that you're kind of already making research and making headway on this. And I think kind of like those fiat on-ramps like Taurus or others, or just like easier ways for like non-DeFi natives to start using SushiSwap and other DeFi apps will be exciting to see how more kind of mainstream users start to interact with these things. But yeah, it's definitely kind of only the beginning. I mean, we're just getting started in this respect. I mean, it's a huge, long way to go.
Yeah, I think there's enough room for multiple decks too. It's very important to see how much aggregators have become useful with all these kind of liquidity being spread over, Uniswap, Sushi, Balancer, Banker. It's been, and a lot of others, are coming up, I'm pretty sure, on other chains too. So it is very key, I think, to understand we're not like fighting inward, but outward. We want to bring more people inside this ecosystem. It's not about winning just inside DeFi. Like that would be so short-minded, close-minded, or short-sighted, I think.
Yeah.
It's really more about like making sure that people can have like all these opportunities. Right now, they're probably not going to start on Ethereum, sadly. They're going to start on other sidechain, which is disappointing. But hopefully, we're going to be able to scale before all these newcomers are, I guess, onboarded. Which I think, by the way, is just the beginning right now. The day we're eating more than 100 billion in DeFi, is just going to be the start.
Totally agree. Great. Then to wrap up, I'm interested in what about Sushi that's being built right now, or even just in DeFi in general, has you the most excited? Like, what are you looking forward to seeing shipped?
Being shipped like in DeFi apps, you mean, or infrastructure wise? What is
either, like just anything that you've been waiting to like see
it's very, very interesting to see. I guess Algo stablecoin coming back into the spotlight, with Olympus, Float Protocol, Fay Protocol, and so on. It's been, writing a lot of ink lately, for good or bad reasons, doesn't matter. I think algo stablecoins are very fascinating, because, you're kind of, right now, most of DeFi is running on stables, that are quote unquote not necessarily fully permissionless, aside from DAI, and even then DAI has some issue a little bit. Although, I think it's one of the, it's one of the biggest protocol that we have in DeFi, which is amazing. And it is a very old one too. So this is quite interesting to see. Identity and insurance is also very nice project. Bright ID, which has not taken enough traction yet, is fascinating to me. The day we're kind of solving identity is going to be very useful for cyber attack and so on. Instead, like everything DAO or governance, I'm still waiting for, I guess, the perfect on-chain way to do everything. I don't think one token, one vote is the way to go. This is very prone to governance takeover by whales and so on. So we're going to find something. I do know that, there's a project like DXDAO that are experimenting with this, with reputation and also tokens and so on. Ultimately, I think the next thing that I would like to see built is something that I don't even know of myself, that we're going to see, popping up in maybe 2-3 months by someone that is hopefully anonymous. So.
Nice. Totally. Yeah, that's a great answer. Awesome. Maki, thank you so much for taking the time. This was really interesting. Really appreciate your insights and getting to know SushiSwap from the inside with you. So yeah, thanks again. It was great chatting.
Thank you.